Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Saturday. My name is Katie Gideon, and I will be your on-camera facilitator. And so I'm excited to be here. You guys get to get comfy and cozy, so make sure you have your journal, something to write with, whatever you need as we close out November with our week 4 November weekly setup. I also want to give a huge shout out to my co-facilitator, who you will see in the chat, Maya. Honestly, it'd been a while since I worked with Maya, so I was really excited. So we had a good little chat during the dress rehearsal before here. But we are so excited to be here. And then, as always, welcome. I love seeing a lot of our returning socialers. And just to double check, you can participate in as much or as little of this social as you want. There is no right or wrong way to participate in these socials. But if you want to participate in the larger chat, just double check that it is set to everyone. If it's set to hosts and panelists, that comes to just myself and Maya, and we love getting questions and answers there. But we know that you're usually there for inspiration as well as ideas from other folks. So just double check as that happens because it'll sometimes change because there are always some little Zoom gremlins changes you go through there. And with that being said, if there's anybody new, we would love to give you a welcome shout out in the chat. And so we were noticing that some folks were having some Zoom issues. Don't worry, we've made note and we'll for sure send something over to headquarters. But also make sure if you also had issues, email hello@silkensonder.com just to give them a heads up. Because like we said, sometimes the invites do weird things. And it goes into Maya and I have some access to things, but not all inclusive access necessary. But we always appreciate that feedback. And then I was toggling through this, but just as a reminder, and we'll show it at the end, we have officially announced our early Black Friday sale. So that's 20% off everything on the site. But there will also be additional Black Friday sale announcements, Cyber Monday sales, and New Year's options. But as always, if there's something that you've been eyeing, we do have limited stock on some of those things, especially as we're kind of transitioning out some of the different products, different uses. And then if you're interested in the coaching platforms, those will be separate sales, separate announcements, but you can always email hello@silkensonder.com, especially if those links or something that you want in particular, if that code isn't working, reach out to them before you do anything because they're absolutely keen to help as much as they can there. And then, as always, please be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. Respect everyone's privacy. No hate speech or bullying. Limit repetitive product and accessory questions. We do like to talk about ours. We just don't want it to detract from the reason we are here. So we love hearing book recommendations, app recommendations, anything that helps you become the fully functional you. We love to share those. We love to hear about them. Sure. And then, as always, we will redirect our customer care inquiries to hello@silkensonder.com. And these socials are a tool to help you with your emotional health through the power of community, but you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. You think I would have had that memorized by now, but I don't. But really, we are glad that you've come exactly as you are. We understand that if you've had a week, I know the seasonality has really impacted me to where I've just been a little bit low energy, a little bit sad because it's dark, and so I've been trying to come up with like little ways that I can kind of trick myself into having those type of things. A little bit better mood, all of those things. So I will share those tricks as we go because I found that they were a little bit helpful. But as always, we are glad that you're here. You haven't missed anything, so we're glad that you're still coming in because we are just now moving into still some of the introductory things. And now we're going to kind of talk about the theme of kindness, which has been our theme for November. And maybe I took a little bit of a pivot just because I've had an interesting week. And sometimes it just means that whatever is on my mind for these socials kind of reflects into that. And it was where this particular I think these are two very different vibe quotes, to say the least. But I thought the one on the left, which is you can have empathy and kindness for others without needing to take their problems as your own. And I think that's really important. And I think it speaks to our larger Silk and Sonder family, just because a lot of us are in the people pleaser. We are the support systems. We are the helpers. We are all of those great and wonderful things. but it can be very, very hard to continue to spread yourself as thin in that regard. And I think there comes an opportunity, kind of also going with the no November idea, and that is being completely functional with setting kind of those boundaries, especially around, the kind of duality between kindness and being nice. And I go a little bit more to that in my mind map, but I just think it's something to consider because also I do love this idea of kindness is like snow. It does beautify everything it covers. And I think there are times where the snow can be really great and it can be really lovely, just like kindness can be really great and really lovely. And then there are times that it gets really icy and cold and a little bit of a health hazard. So I think sometimes kindness can be a little bit of a health hazard to ourselves sometimes. And so that's why I liked a little bit of the duality here. And so we are going to look at our kindness mind map. We're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection, and then we're going to move into those weekly setup pages. So we are in week 4 of our mind map. And so this will be your particular section in your journal. Most people will use that blank page, but as a reminder, it is not printed in your journal. So if you are coming to us and you haven't done a mind map in a while, or if you are kind of been working us with week to week, we will include the previous week responses there, but just because we include them does not mean that you're behind and you have to do them. They're just there in the event you want to kind of use them to focus a little bit more on the journaling side of things through the theme. But it's certainly an invitation to explore these through the mind map. And we explore the theme through a couple different lenses, a couple different questions, a couple different ideas. So you can always do that. And then what's great about this is that it's because it's on a weekly scale. If you don't come up with something tonight, you don't have to, or you can come back and look at it tomorrow or throughout the week. I have found that to be really helpful as I continue to kind of mull all over these things. I don't always find some of the generated prompts super where my head is at. So that's why I've appreciated the mind map because I find myself coming back to it to do some reflection. And a lot of that is almost how they're do. Yeah, sure. And exactly. If I will always come back to slides once I set the prompt. I'll play on some music and then come back. So if you just need me to go back, let me know. If you need me to go forward, let us know. Maya and I are here to help. So we have the week 1 where we looked at the specific acts. Week 2, we dove into kind of the sensory details. And then with week 3, we kind of wanted to map out some of the different feelings and emotions that you can get attached to kindness. And so with week 4, it's going to be what do your most cherished memories reveal about your core beliefs regarding kindness and compassion? What is one concrete way you can live out that value of kindness this week? So I have included that particular question on the first 2 sentences on the slide, so it'll go back and forth between the 2. But I have also added a couple other perspectives because I can't help myself, especially when it comes to the mind map. And so another thing that you can kind of add to this as well, it is the season to show kindness to others. Don't forget to include ways to show it to yourself. So what are some ways you can live out self-kindness? Because again, I feel like it's one of those we need to set some of those boundaries. We are here on a self-care journey. Why not take that opportunity to turn a little bit more inward? Because I do feel like sometimes we do not give ourselves that credit. And I feel like it's really been a way to highlight this, especially in kindness. And then, as I said, I had kind of a weird week, so I went down a slightly different path, which was, do you find this sometimes difficult to do because of your core beliefs? And I think it was just dealing with the nice and the kind, or as I would say, the true kindness versus just the politeness. Because I have been in some professions where kindness can be great and the empathy is also great, but it can also be taken advantage of. So I've had to be very, very clear with some of those boundaries. I also can't take a lot of that stuff home, or I would just sit in a very, very sad, sad state if I was taking on everybody else's burden. So I've had to be very, very particular about it. But I also then think does that make me then less of a kind person? And so that was kind of what I explored in my mind map. The one on the right is my example of the all 4 weeks. So that's kind of the direction I went. And then how has looking at kindness through these lenses added to your expression of it? Because I think, again, as we've kind of gone through the kindness theme, it is also a good opportunity to reflect on it as a whole, or maybe if you've discovered something new, tried something different, especially as we go into this week when it comes to Thanksgiving and all of kind of those things and that seasonality thing. So here we are. The mind map that we're working on and the questions we're looking at are those, what are your most cherished memories reveal about your core beliefs regarding kindness and compassion, and how can you live out that value of kindness this week? So I'm going to give you some time to work on this. I would love to hear your thoughts, not only on this perspective, but just kindness in general. Has this been a good theme? Has this been a helpful theme? Did it come at the right time? Or has this just kind of opened up a whole nother rabbit hole for you to go down? So I will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Please continue to share in the chat, even as we move through the different prompts, different pages, different things. Just let us know if we need to go back, because unfortunately, we are on a little bit of a time crunch. But I appreciate what I appreciate most about these socials is realizing that I am not alone with some of these thoughts and feelings, especially around the theme, because really I felt like I was maybe just being a little bit hypercritical, coming in a little bit with a wrecking ball with some of those kind of kindness memories that I do feel like were very much overshadowed by other things. And I was just having a hard time seeing that being productive, just in a sense of I have all these great memories and there's still just that kind of looming shadow that I was just having a hard time kind of getting past. And I don't know if it was just being in a weird space, the weird timing, all of those things, but I certainly appreciate that just connection that all of us can kind of find with this. And sometimes it's just particular prompts that I feel like kind of trigger it or at least bring that up. So thank you everybody for sharing your thoughts there. That's what I also love about the prompts is sometimes I don't even share what answer I come up with. It's kind of the mental and emotional kind of path or journey we take to kind of as we come to and start thinking and exploring those answers. So thank you everybody for sharing. And the same thing, just because you haven't maybe come up with an answer or took you in a different direction, you have the entire week to come back to look at these prompts. And like I said, I have found a lot of comfort in being able to come back to these mind maps throughout the week. That I've really kind of pivoted a lot of my journal reflection, kind of really still within these themes of the mind map, because these are come on a weekly basis under each theme for the month. And I think it's a really nice blank page, I think, for me, because sometimes I struggle with leaning into the white space. But thank you, everybody, for your thoughts and feelings on this. And we're just going to keep that reflection rolling. So please join me on page 50 in your November journal for our Rosebud Thorn exercise. And this, I think, is a really valuable thing. I have come to have a now better or just nicer understanding of this particular reflection. And I think because it's just really special to be able to see the highs that you had this week overlaid with maybe the not so good things that happened over the week, and then being able to kind of intentionally put them in writing, which I think there's still just very much the power of pen to paper, but look at them in writing, but then be able to decide how you then want to take some of that stuff with you into the next week. Maybe you had a really amazing rose, which is that highlight, the win, something that made you happy, made you smile, something that you would consider a success. And maybe that is something that you can then carry over into the next week of like, hey, I did this because. Or maybe you had a thorn, which was something that didn't go so well, a challenge, the negative thing, or the thing that is just taking up too much energy, effort, thoughts, feelings, and emotion in your, mind, body, and soul, all of those things. And so then it's the collective decision. Do I want to take this as a lessons learned into the next week, or do I just want to leave it in the previous week? And then the bud is that really kind of magical space in between of something that you can get excited about, an emerging opportunity, something that you can look forward to, or something that is out on the horizon that you haven't quite figured out what it is yet. So maybe you can pull some of those rose experiences to help cultivate that bud into a rose, to maybe kind of commandeer and make it a little less thorny. So as I said, this is always a great reflection to see that. And we love to celebrate all of the roses that everybody had last week. Get excited about the buds and then, just add a little bit extra support and thoughts and prayers and emotions to some of those thorns that everybody is experiencing. So my rose, the highlight of this past week is I was a very much a closeted little angsty emo girl growing up. And so I was the biggest fan of The Offspring and Simple Plan, and they came to Glasgow. So I got to see them live in concert. It was amazing. It was wonderful. I don't think I realized how much of their songs I had actually listened to. And it just becomes that like embedded, ingrained, almost muscle memory lyrics of just Little me was so excited about that concert, and she had a great time, and I had a great time. The emerging opportunity, I am right there with Stranger Things. I'm super excited about Stranger Things, but I have to wait to do that because I've got a paper due. But I also have plans to go see Wicked for Good, which I'm really excited about with a really fun group of girls. I'm actually currently wearing a Wicked sweater. So I'm really excited about that and the magic that that is. I love the musical. I read the books, so I'm a fan. I'm glad to now see that chapter completed in cinema form. And then the Thorn. Whew, I feel like someone took a baseball bat across the back of my shoulders. I've just been really stiff, really sore, and so I've just been struggling in that regard. So I've just been trying to sort that out, fix that, all those things. So I would love if you want to share in the chat your rosebud thorns for this week. But again, we're on page 50 in your November journal. Leanne, I think you're going to like the next song. So we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Appreciate seeing all of the different roses, the buds, and the thorns. And I always love when there's a bit of a theme. It seemed like there were quite a few roses associated with music, and events, or even just hanging out with friends or getting excited with the seasons. And definitely quite a few thorns, a lot around family, which I feel like is certainly in line. With this time of year, as we know, this time of year can certainly be tough. It certainly is the season of roses and thorns. I think very much so. But what I always appreciate about the Rosebud Thorn is because we are each other's best accountability buddies, it is always so nice to just check in with everybody, see how they're doing. And I find there's just quite a bit of relief of being able to put all of these things out into the world. It's a really nice space just to kind of put that out there. What are your feelings? What are your thoughts? How are you reflecting on your past week? Because then it's just such a lovely place to be that no one is overanalyzing, no one is doing too much advice giving in these regards. So I always just appreciate the opportunity to look at my past week through the particular lens and then share it with all of you. But as always, please continue to share in the chat even as we move through those sections, because we are now going to move into our weekly planning pages, which writing this down was wild. We're on week 48, which I mean, again, makes sense considering we just have this next week and then December is here. But it just seemed really wild because, like I said, I feel like this week, this year, this quarter has all gone really quickly to the point I feel like I'm still looking for like August, July, August. That's how much like September, October has been a blur. And November's been a bit of a blur. But as I just put in the chat, we are going to be working on page 52 and 53 in your November journal. And as always, I like to just frame this as sometimes what I find really helpful as kind of move into the weekly setup pages is what do I need this week? I will always ask myself that because sometimes what I need is going to be very, very different to this particular week in November. It's going to be a short week because of Thanksgiving. So this week certainly looks very different than those weeks in August and those weeks in April. So sometimes I have to ask myself, what do I need this week? And do I need the page exactly as written? Do I need to repurpose anything and everything? Do I need to provide some of those foundational building blocks so that they all connect together to add a little bit more support so that I can get through the week? Or do I just need a break from some of the sections? So there is no right or wrong way to set this up. There is no journal police. No one's going to show up over your shoulder and see where have you gone, what are you doing, what are the plans. And so sometimes a copy and paste is the perfect solution for this. And sometimes it's a complete and total shakeup. And I just would certainly say if you get a little stuck, if you have a little bit of a hard time, you can certainly use this inspiration, as well as the folks in the chat. You guys provide such amazing examples and inspiration that sometimes it just starts with asking yourself, what do I need this week? And so, starting at the top of page 52 with this week, I want to feel, I always ask myself, how do I want to feel this time next week? I'm definitely goal oriented. And so, as I'm experiencing those rows, the buds, and the thorns of the week, I'd like to have that thing that brings me back to center, that thing that I can be intentionally optimistic about and kind of control, because this is my opportunity to kind of manifest the type of week that I want. And sometimes that can be, a specific word. It can be a couple different words. It can be less of something, more of something percents. Maybe you need a specific definition. Maybe you need a something-ish. I liked this mood meter, which is what I brought in. And that was because I was trying to trick myself to maybe feel a little bit better or have a bit more high energy. So that's where it was I liked the high energy, low energy, unpleasant versus pleasant. So I assumed that I could start maybe dressing in that way. So I actually, believe it or not, dressed this week in some of those more brighter colors, the high energy and pleasant ones. And it did make me feel a little bit brighter, a little bit happier. But even at nighttime, here I am in my dark blue. But that was one of those tools that I was trying to give myself a little bit more energy, a little bit more boost. So I did pull out some of those outfits that I would consider maybe a little bit more spring-like. And I thought it was great and it was really helpful and I felt better about it and I didn't have to put too much thought in it, even though I did feel a little silly running around in kind of that like peachy color because I was like, this is not winter, but I work from home, so it worked. But I would highly recommend some of those, and I'll provide again more of the things that I trick myself with, because sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it's a little bit of the doodles, the ideas here, kind of those different ideas leaning into the theme. Maybe it's to be present, maybe it's to be focused. I liked the peaceful, powerful, present, all of those. So I'm going to turn on a quick song, and I would love to again support some of that intentional optimism with how you want to feel this time next week or or how do you want to feel? And we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I appreciated seeing some of these. I like the festive one because I am over here in Scotland, so Thanksgiving is not something that is celebrated over here, obviously. But I actually went to the store and I did get a small turkey that I'm gonna throw together because I thought that would be a fun thing. And Thursdays, I usually do have the Macy's Day Parade playing in the background. And I do have a perfect pink shirt, so it moves into the mood changing with a whale and a cornucopia on it. So I feel like it's kind of those little things that I'm already looking forward to, exciting to kind of add a little bit more energy and get me again a little bit out of that seasonal low. So now we're going to move on to the next two sections, which are the weekly major three goals and the weekly to-do list. This is still on page 52 in your November journal. And I like to combine these two things. And that's just because in order to feel the way I want to feel this time next week, I have to provide some mental and emotional reminders to myself, which become my major three goals or my major three mental and emotional reminders so that I can feel the way I want to feel this time next week. And so those kind of go hand in hand for me. And then I overlay the to-do list. And the to-do list can be sort of all over the place. And so I have found that I've had to do some restructuring with how I approach that. But another way to approach the weekly major three goals is to categorize things. And so that can be the mind, the body, the soul categories. Maybe it is more of just like the three big things you need to do, the three things you need to focus on. I've actually kind of done that as a little bit more of a targeted to-do list. Like these are the three things, like no joke, you need to get done. So I like to kind of put them there. Maybe it's how you're leaning into the season, leaning into some of those wonderful alliterations, because alliterations are also a great way to kind of trick our mind, and that becomes something that we can fixate on. So maybe it is leaning into the creative, capable, and carefree. Maybe it is the frog, fun, and fierce. Maybe you need to zoom in a little bit more and not look at it as weekly major goals and maybe more of daily major three goals. And that's where the early, the midday, and the evening come in, which I have definitely used in the past as well because I have found that that helps me structure my day a little bit. And then you can always gamify everything with those wonderful bingo boards, or that bottom left example is that direct correlation between the different categories, kind of a theme for a week, and then how those to-dos are going to specifically support those categories and those goals. And sometimes you just need maybe some mantras, maybe leaning into the kindness. Lori, great ones, the home, the work, and the self. And again, we always say just because there are three requirements or three solutions here does not require that. Maybe it's just two things that you need to focus on, your home and your work, or some of those, maybe it's a mental and maybe it's a mental and a physical. Maybe it is that nice versus kindness kind of things. Or maybe it is, again, more of the alliterations or leaning into those weekly affirmations, the kindness things that you want to kind of do and go into. And then we've got the weekly to-dos. And like I said, don't worry, I will go back through all of these slides once I go off camera. But if I need to stick on one a little bit longer, just let us know in the chat. But the to-dos, I am normally a to-do girly. I like to celebrate all the things that I accomplish and provide that self-validation. But I've just had a hard time with that because, again, it's the low energy and a little bit of the lack of motivation. So I have had to lean into that Eisenhower matrix, which is the do, decide, delegate, or delete. I don't delete anything, I just delay it. So that has been somewhat helpful for me, but I've actually had to use a little bit more of the Pomodoro technique as well, just because I need to set some more of those timers and have a little bit of a little treat myself moment after that because I've just been very, very low on the motivation to kind of to get stuff done. And it's one of those, it's been weird. I've been in this funk for a little bit, so I am trying to continue to to kind of trick myself to do it. So I've been rewarding myself with some of the habits and activities that I have listed. And that's been helpful. But sometimes, again, it's the have to or the want to. And sometimes a lot of it is just recategorizing your to-do lists or even just putting them in categories. Maybe it is the needs and the wants, the don't do this instead. Maybe it's a sticker. Maybe it's a different to-do for each day just to kind of help schedule everything a little bit more. So again, coming in with that zoom in, zoom out technique. Maybe it is just a picture. Maybe it is a to-be list. Maybe this is where those mental and emotional reminders are. That's the kind of to-do list or the not to-do list. Or even overlaying those different categories, the work versus the personal and the need and the want. So I would love to see if you have any advice on maybe your weekly to-dos or your weekly goals. Are these copy and paste sections that you just creature of habit, which I love a good creature of habit. I am a creature of habit. Or is this something that kind of changes a little bit? I know my to-do list obviously changes just from the things, and usually the things on it will dictate the type of approach that I have. But I'm going to give you some time to work on this. And if you want to share in the chat, please do so, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And honestly, Peg, I think you bring up a pretty good point with the needing to kind of reevaluate everything daily. And I am definitely one of those folks, as like I come up with such great, amazing ideas on a Saturday or Sunday, and then come Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going, what was I thinking? And I love that because I think it's one of those that you're utilizing the tools, you're using that feedback loop. I come from an operations background, and I love that. And I think it's one of those that if you found that you've kind of pivoted in a different direction or need to do something else, do it. It was one of those you can cover it up, you can erase it. I am a pencil person, so I can erase those things, but I have definitely ripped out pages and just been like, yeah, past me didn't know what she was doing, didn't know what future me was going to be. And it wasn't helpful. So it's one of those things, don't get hang up on it. Definitely pivot and do whatever you need to do it. The ghosts are going to continue to show up. I just love them. And I feel like that is my epiphany right now. But now we're on to those habits and activities. So now we are overlaying all of those other things that you need to do to add to your to-do list, as well as maybe help support your weekly major three goals in order to feel the way you want to feel this time next week. I am a creature of habit. I have the same three things that I want to do every single day, and that is move, read, and journal. I just get to then decide with this particular section. So I have those tracked on my monthly tracker. I bring them over to my weekly pages, and this is where I get to add that lens of reality. How much time do I have to dedicate to these? And that's based on, honestly, the big thing is weather. This girl does not winter well, so I don't like to go outside in the cold weather. I don't like to do stuff in the cold weather. So a lot of that is completely reflected on how I move each day. And so that's kind of been the reality there. Same thing with reading and journaling. As much as I do love to read, I've had to do a bit of a pivot into more of the business books because I have a paper due. So I'm not allowed to add kind of all the fun reading that I want to do. So that's certainly the things that I then take account for as the lens of reality, just so I can manage my expectations a bit better because I found that I was trying to overdo a lot of these things or just have unrealistic expectations with this. And I was certainly hurting my feelings because of it. So maybe you want to set goals. Maybe this is where your mental and emotional reminders are. Maybe again, it leans into the you want to be present. So maybe this is not a section that you need that week. Because when I'm on vacation or when I have people visiting, I want to be present. So I know a lot of those things naturally get incorporated. I just don't diligently track it as much as I usually do. Maybe it is something that your weekdays are going to look a little bit different than your weekends, those days off that are creeping in. And again, maybe because the week that we have with the celebration coming up and this shorter week, maybe instead of five goals or five habits and activities, you're only doing a few. Um, and then I always recommend the 5 days to schedule every month. I think this is just a great tool. I treat it as like a theme for each week. And so for me, it's a learning week just because I have to buckle in on some of the schoolwork as well as just kind of working on a new project at work. So it's those kind of things. So the previous week was a little bit of a reset. I've had a little bit of a self-care weekend. And I love that you mentioned the dance parties because you guys know me and my iconography. So these are my favorite parts because I've absolutely repurposed, honestly, probably going on this entire year, the expense tracker with my adventure list and my bucket lists. So it's just adding a little bit of extra celebration to make these things special, especially things that you already do. You know, sipping a warm drink on a crisp morning, that's basically your coffee break. So I include that just because I feel like it makes it a little bit happy. It makes it a little bit more special. And again, getting excited for those burr months. And then I love these. So some self-care inspiration and things that help when it's always dark out. I loved this because there's so much of that. So it's I found these really helpful. And like I said, I'm trying to just trick myself to have a little bit more fun. Um, and so I've been doing a lot more of that and I really appreciated it. So I highly recommend to include some of these. And a lot of people ask me where I get these. I've completely gone through and curated my Instagram social media. And so these are all the recommendations on my For You page. I highly recommend you do it because it just makes me so happy that I can log in and these are the amazing things that I get to add the inspiration. So I'm going to give you some time to work on this and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Yeah, I feel like Maya and I are the two definitely like find all the fun, happy iconography and memes and all those things. So like I said, I actually started incorporating some of these things. The big thing was keeping a jumper or a sweater near that, so I've been throwing this one on, as well as swapping the doom scrolling for the comfort shows and trying to sit by the window and turning on a lot more lights than I usually do, and I have found those to be quite helpful in tricking myself to do all of these amazing things. So now we're going to move to page 53, and I'm going to combine all of these together because I lovingly refer to this as the B side. And I see a lot of folks that will repurpose this. And like I said, don't worry, I'm going to go through all of these examples and then I'll come off and you'll get to go through them again. But the meal plan can be used exactly as listed. A plan, when it comes to the meals, it can also be something that you track in real time. And that's what I like about this. It can be something that you can plan ahead for or something that you can do in real time. Maybe it's your one good thing if you're having a little bit of a struggle to do that. Maybe it is a kindness tracker. Saw some of the doodle conversations. Gloria is one of our regular socialers. She posted this in Sonder Club with the daily kindness doodles. And I just think they're so fun and so elegantly simplistic and how they can kind of support and make you happy because sometimes the journal reflections can get a little deep and maybe you just want to kind of switch your brain off if you've gone to any of Jeno's coloring socials. Maybe that's where you want to go. Maybe it's the daily affirmations, your daily rituals. Maybe it's leaning into tricking yourself into being in a better mood based on what you wear. So you're turning it into a clothing tracker. Like I said, I kind of have everything laid and we've gone for the brighter colors to add a little bit more pep. Maybe it's the mind body health plan that you want to schedule for and plan ahead for, or maybe it's something that you track in real time. Maybe it's leaning into the alliterations. Like I said, if we trick ourselves into that, man, I'm just going all sorts of tricking myself this week. Maybe that's we're gonna live in an alternate reality through the winter. I like the really great mental check-in of the I feel and I need. I find myself leaning into this throughout the day as well. We're starting to feel a little bit anxious, a little bit something, can't quite put my finger on it. So I step away, grab a post-it note and just have that little reflection of, is it this? Is it that? So what do I need? And I'll make those adjustments as necessary. Same thing with, again, leaning into the November, the Burr bucket list, kind of the things that are fun, that are cozy. Really leaning into the hygge of things. We love all of that and that vibe. Maybe it's the seven types of rest. And again, here are a few more of the things maybe you need to hear. Quick ways to be kind to yourself. One of them was a listen to your favorite song and dance it out. I have found myself doing that a little bit more, where it's like we shut everything down, pause everything, play a quick song, get out, walk around, have a karaoke moment, and then come back, sit down. It's been really helpful. And then we've got the shopping list. So those can go hand in hand with those meal plans, or you can repurpose this section as well. Bingo board, maybe a Thanksgiving bingo board, maybe a holiday bingo board. Maybe this is where you start your list of holiday things you need to do. I also want to highlight someone uses it as a social check-in. This is another great time to check in with some of those friends and family that maybe just need a little bit of extra love before you head into the holidays. You know who those people are. Excuse me, or maybe this is the reminder, all of those things, the don't buy, the buy, all of those great ideas, leaning into maybe a glimmer bingo, some of those other wardrobe things, planning, packing, all of the travel things. So I am going to play one more song and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And then that very last section on page 53 is the I am loving, and this is your opportunity to share all of those things that you are currently loving. If you would like to share that in the chat, you can. I still love, again, it goes back to the curation of my social media. So I get the sassy, snarky, all the things that just make me laugh, make me happy. The angry sharks, the angry cats, I embrace all of the angry, sassy animals that are trying to do their job. So I think that's just a really always a great way to end. And I think it needs a little bit bigger spot, but always fun. And as always, we would love to continue the conversation in the Silk and Sonder app. You all provide such amazing inspiration as well as wonderful examples. So if you would like to share your pages there, we always love to see them. And I know other people will appreciate it as well. And then, as I had mentioned, I will come back to this slide, but we have officially started our early Black Friday sale, which is 20% off everything. If the code doesn't work, or if you have you're set on something and it's not quite working, do please email hello@silkandsonder.com so that they can sort it and fix it. And if it doesn't quite respond, just throw it into the Silk and Sonder app and it'll get probably removed once it gets addressed. But that's another way to get the idea as well. Maya is including the links in the chat for our YouTube channel. So if you miss social, you want another facilitator's perspective, because I know Maya is hosting a weekly setup tomorrow. I will be hosting one as well. So we appreciate all of that. As always, Jenny was referencing this. If you're interested in the personalized coach, there are sale opportunities coming up, so keep an eye out for that. We'll make a plug if you're not following Silk and Sonder on Instagram. That is a great way to do it. You'll see our lovely Casey as well as Meha making announcements around that as well. This is a copy of my playlist. I will include the Spotify link in the chat. And I will sit on this just a little bit longer because I have really been leaning into the music affecting it. I love it. I think it's so amazing how much it impacts kind of how we approach things. So again, I am using the colors, the visuals, the feelings, and the music to kind of trick myself to not get so down in the dumps because it's dark. So I'd love to see you all at another social. I included that as well. But I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, an amazing rest of your weekend. We are going to have a great week as we close out the final week of November with kindness. And I hope to see you at another event real soon. I will see you later. Bye.